I'm recording it just, well, for a few reasons, actually. One is that it looks like we are missing a few people, so they will be able to catch up on the recording. And also, if there was something that was, that I talk about or show some slides on that you want to rewatch at some point, you can go back to the recording and have a look at that. I'm going to just share my screen, a couple of slides to cover off some of the admin logistics side of things, and also tell you how I'd like to run this, these next sessions with the group we've got here. So you're here for the road safety audit course. Hopefully you're in that one. This course is relevant for all of these jurisdictions as well as New South Wales now. We had some changes made, and about a year ago we were put onto the New South Wales approved list as well. So I mentioned recording. I'm going to record the sessions, and I just to give a little bit of a content warning there. We will show some crash scenes. Nothing overly graphic. Just some crashes to try to analyze, well, how did the infrastructure play a role in that crash happening, or the severity of that crash, and what could we do to alter things to have that not happen in the future or in future schemes. Now, you would have got some information from training at Safe System Solutions or Kathy herself, and Kathy's details are here. And if you have sort of logistical questions, you can ask Kathy, or of course you can ask me throughout the session. But Kathy's a good point of contact there for those questions, or whatever email arrived that got you to this point from Safe System Solutions. If you reply to that, we will be able to assist you. So how are we going to work this session? Well, a combination of things. Using the chat. I don't think we've got the Q&A function in this specific one, but the chat is a good one. And I freely welcome you to jot things into the chat as we go, make comments, ask questions and the like. It's a good way that we can manage the questions and have your questions put down there, and maybe not disrupt too much of the flow. Although I do encourage you to pop your hand up and then ask a question that way. So I'll manage this. I'll ask you to try and keep yourself on mute if you are not speaking, just so we don't get the dogs barking in the background or the colleague having an argument with a developer on the side there or something like that. But certainly pop your hand up, and then we'll be able to have some questions. I do have quite a number of things along this course where I will be asking for your interaction, your opinion. I'll be asking questions of you, and it'll be a good chance to. Oh, sorry, we've got some more people coming in. I'm just letting people in there. Okay, so it'll be a good chance for you to interact. And of course, some of you know there's prizes. There's always prizes available with anything we do. And the way you can win prizes in this one is to answer my questions, be the first to answer the questions, turn up a bit early on the sessions, and I'll be giving out a few prizes with some warm-up trivia. And I've got a few other ones with little assignments and those sort of things. Okay. I'm just going to mute some of the newcomers because we've got a bit of background noise coming there. And just summarize there that we'll be asking you to use the chat quite a bit, and you can raise your hand and ask questions and unmute yourself and have comments that way. And we'll keep ticking along. So you need access to the learning management system. You should have received an email from Safe System Solutions to give you access to our learning management system. You cannot successfully complete this course unless you have access to that. It's where you're going to be required to complete quizzes at the end of each module to test that you've grasped some of the concepts. It's going to be where you upload assignments, and everything's housed there. So if you did not get that, if you didn't get that, please make sure that you get in contact with Kathy or myself and say you haven't got access to the learning management system. And we have a hand raised already. So Blair.
Hey Ken, how you going?
Good, thank you.
This learning management system, if we used it last time, is it still the same login?
It should be.
The Safe Systems assessments?
Yes, it should be the same login.
Yes.
So you should be able to get in there, and this should just appear as another course for you.
Yep, awesome, thanks.
Right. Okay. So any issues with that, don't hesitate to just shoot off an email or give us a call or the like. We don't want you getting frustrated with the technology. There'll probably be some way to easily and quickly solve that. So there will be two of us presenting the content of this course, and we've got myself, and I know many of you, and it's good to, well, at least see your names there, and we'll be chatting and interacting as we go. So I'm the principal engineer at Safe System Solutions, and have been involved in road safety auditing across Australia and New Zealand for about the past 20 years in varied forms, and developing lots of the Austroads guidance and policy initiatives and the like, and have had a long history of undertaking the roads, or being the presenter of the road safety audit course across Australia. And as I said, New South Wales only in the past year has really been an area that we've, that we applied and were approved for our course to make you a registered road safety auditor in New South Wales. I'll explain all of that in a later module. My colleague Jamie Robinson is our technical lead at Safe System Solutions, and I've asked him to come in to give you a bit of a break from me, but also because of his immense technical knowledge in road design and road safety in a technical sense, and he'll take you through road safety auditing of detailed designs. Okay. Now, those who have done the Safe System Assessment course will remember Wally the Wombat, and I want you to keep count of Wally like you did last time. So every module, Wally will appear a random number of times, and it's your task to keep a track of how many times that is, keep count. And then in those quizzes I mentioned at the end of the module, you'll just be asked how many times did Wally appear in that module, and you can pop your answer in there. Okay, to successfully complete this course and get the certificate, which makes you eligible to become a registered road safety auditor in New South Wales or in other jurisdictions if you want, we need you to attend 4 out of the 5 live webinars. And as I said, I'm recording all of them, and they'll be available in the learning management system if you have to miss one for unavoidable reasons. If you've got to miss more, suggest you get in contact with Kathy, and she'll talk you through some ways we can accommodate that. We need you to do all the set tasks, but we need you to get the competency benchmark of 80% for all quizzes and assignments. So anything that's marked. And we do actually mark your road safety audits that you will do, or your mock road safety audits. So one of our senior road safety auditors will be marking that. Could be me, could be one of my colleagues, and you'll get feedback. And if you don't get above that 80% competency, you'll have another 2 attempts at it to change it and fix things up based on feedback. And of course, you will also have one-on-one coaching available. So you'll be able to have a Zoom call or a Teams meeting or a phone call with one of us and talk through things you're maybe struggling to get your head around. So before I jump into the actual content, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the varied lands on which we are running this course. It's varied lands. We're from a variety of spots, which is the wonder of technology. I'll pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging across all of those lands. Now, does anybody have any questions regarding sort of the logistics of the course? Either feel free to pop it into the chat and I sort of monitor that on the side and periodically jump into that, or with this one, you can pop your hand up at any point and you can then unmute yourself and ask questions. It looks like people are fairly happy. Okay, I think I can get into some content. Okay, so road safety audit. So no doubt some of you, if not all of you, have heard the term road safety audit. And it's been around a while. I'll explain a little bit of the history of it. This module in particular, so over the next hour and a bit, an hour and 45 minutes, we're going to delve into the definition of a road safety audit. We're going to put road safety audit into a project's life cycle or a road or street's life cycle. We're going to differentiate between road safety auditing and black spot investigations. Yeah, we're going to get into a bit of risk rating, road safety audits, and talk about the safe system, which I don't need to spend long on with this group because we have had a good discussion with many of you about that, and New South Wales government's done a lot of work to get safe system theory out there. But we do need to delve back into kinetic energy thresholds and management in road safety auditing. So we'll just recap some of that. Okay, so this course is based on the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6. And that there was a release of a new Part 6 last calendar year, 2022, late 2022. I was the technical advisor to Austroads on that document. And so we did reshape a fair bit of road safety auditing practice, and it's filtering into New South Wales practice and supplements for New South Wales. And I'll take you through the process in its sort of contemporary form. There are lots of old superseded ones. You may have them around in your offices, although most people are hopeless office style these days, but you might recognize some of those documents. So this course meets the Austroads requirements for a road safety audit course in terms of the content we covered, and as I mentioned, has been approved by the by Transport for New South Wales and Queensland Department of Transport, Victorian Government, and South Australian Government as well. So you will, with successful completion of this course, be eligible to be a registered road safety auditor across any of those jurisdictions, and I'll explain that later. But overall, with these road safety audit courses that are approved, it's about outlining the process of road safety auditing, okay? We can't, within the time allocated, cover off every scenario that you need to be able to analyze in the road and street network to identify risk. I mean, there's just immense amounts of stuff there, and that's a lifelong ongoing journey, as many of you are fully aware. We're always continuing to learn and find new stuff out. There's new research, and we continue working on that. But what we can teach in the time is the process of how to undertake a road safety audit and also, I suppose, give some basic skills in identification of risk. And that's what I'll be focusing on, some basic skills there. Some of you will sort of have those skills already, and we will potentially just sharpen them and hone them with that road safety audit lens. And within lenses there, we're going to be ensuring that things are done with that safe system lens. That's our commitment these days, that we do everything with a safe system lens, and that's great. But just how that fits into road safety auditing these days, I'll cover off. What I do a lot of through the course is bring up examples of common issues arising in road safety audits. And I use them really to demonstrate a concept or demonstrate a thinking or talk about a process within road safety audit. They're just ones over my career that I've seen come up over and over again, and just put them in. Some of them are more severe than others, but they come up a lot, these ones. We're going to think about all road users: cyclists, motorcyclists, pedestrians, cars, heavy vehicles, scooters, people in wheelchairs, the lot. We're going to think about all of our road users. And we're going to encourage road safety auditing because it is a great tool, and we're going to answer your questions, and we're going to talk a little bit about auditing as a one option we have in the wide spectrum of things that can inject safety into our projects or our existing roads. Feel free to pop your questions in the chat as we go. Don't feel that you have to wait for me to pause and ask if anybody's got any questions, because we'll be able to integrate those in nicely. Now, this diagram, I don't want you to be overwhelmed by it. I snipped it straight out of the Australia's Guide to Road Safety Part 6, Road Safety Audit, and it talks about some of those different interventions and processes and practices and principles associated with road safety in the life cycle of a road or any transport infrastructure. So we see, from that corridor development all the way through to network operations and maintenance. And you can see there we've got sort of safety vision related stuff, safe system principle style stuff, movement of place. And then we've got proactive techniques and reactive techniques. So reactive techniques are our black spot investigations, crash studies, in-depth crash investigations and the like. Our proactive ones are not having to have had crashes or looking at schemes that are yet to be built. So, you're trying to predict crashes or proactively treat things. Predictive techniques are sort of things like the tools of ANRAM or OSRAP or IRR, or they're techniques to try to use essentially computer modeling to predict where your crashes might occur. Safe system assessments sort of sit somewhat within predictive techniques because they give scores, as you know, but they're kind of proactive technique as well. So it's a bit of, in between. I'll give a prize just to give get us a bit of interaction going here. If somebody can tell me what OSRAP stands for. OSRAP. I might have even asked this group that in the Safe System Assessment course, but OSRAP. Let's see if somebody types that. First person to type that in the chat will win a prize. Emma's got what one of the outputs of OSRAP is. So that's good. And Australian Road Assessment Program, Nicole has the prize. So that's right. And Emma Emma can have a prize as well, because that's right. One of the really commonly known outputs of an OSRAP assessment is that star rating of a road or of a design out of 5 to indicate its expected or predicted safety performance. Okay, so road safety auditing sits within this predictive technique, and it sits in there, and we're going to run through a fair bit of that. Now, I've got a group here, and I know some of you have quite a bit of experience and knowledge in sort of road infrastructure planning and management and design and the like. So Some of you will be aware of this, but it may be a little bit of if people are new to the idea of road safety auditing. A road safety audit is not a standards review. So the word audit naturally conjures up images of financial audits and these sorts of things, doesn't it? And this rigorous check of compliance with the documented standards or codes. But that's not what a road safety audit is. A road safety audit is a holistic look at safety, regardless of whether we conform with standards and guidelines or do not conform with standards or guidelines. And the reason for this is really, I suppose, this. Standards do not necessarily equal safety. So meeting the standards and guidelines do not necessarily guarantee safety. Why is that? Well, one reason for that is that our standards often have risk built into them for one reason or another. Okay, so there's that. The second one is that standards come together and guidelines come together out there in the real world, and that the combination of standards can present a risky scenario. So you may have one thing that meets standards and another thing in there that also meets standards, but by those two being in there, we get a dangerous situation. So we've got both of those important reasons why we want this lens to look directly at safety and say, okay, standards have been met here, but I'm still concerned about the safety. Or this facility does not meet standards. However, we believe it presents very low, if not negligible risk, or it's doing a really good safety job. And the audit is able to sort of, confirm that and not pick on the fact that it doesn't meet standards. But I do say in brackets here, standards can be a pretty decent starting point. Most standards have thought about safety, and meeting them often gives us fairly safe outcomes, but it's not a guarantee. Now, when we find issues in a road safety audit, you can link those to a standard if there's one that you believe is applicable, that it's not meeting or the like. And often, and I'll show you an example of this, often I will, as an auditor with my audit team, I will actually write in there, this meets this standard, however, we are still concerned with this as an issue. Okay, I'm just upfront with it. I'm going, because I know the natural reaction will be from the designer, this meets AS, whatever, and is, and thus no action. So we're sort of getting on the front foot there and saying, we know, but we're still concerned. So let's have a look at an example of this, a tragic incident where a truck driver has lost their life. Now, this is a fairly new motorway. It is in Victoria. This was not long after it was opened. Now you can see there's a barrier system there, isn't there? It's a wire rope safety barrier system, and it will be a test level 3 or maybe a test level 4 barrier system. So that's the test that is undertaken in a test lab to check that the barrier, not this particular one, but this type of barrier, passes a certain some certain requirements. And in fact, I'll give a prize out to the person who can tell me, let's go with a test level 4 barrier system. In that test environment, what weight of vehicle struck the barrier at 25 degrees and 100 kilometers per hour and was redirected and contained in a certain envelope? Have a guess. Pop it in the chat. the closest, I'll give a prize to, the closest on that. Good. I'm seeing some guesses. I got 12 tons, I got 2.5 tons. Feel free to have a guess. By the way, you lose no marks in the live session. Okay. It's only the after session activities where you're actually being marked. So feel free to just have guesses and the like. Now, as those come in, we will just want to say we will have a short stretch break, coffee break a little bit later on. Okay, looks like Dan's going to get a prize. Dan said 12. It's pretty close. It's under our new crash test protocol, which is called MASH, the Manual for Assessing Safety Hardware. It is a 10-ton vehicle for a test level 4. And I see some lower ones there around the 2 and 2.5 area, which is the test level 3. Okay, so thank you for your input there. Two things. Well, before I go further forward, if you're sitting there going, oh my God, I don't know much about barriers and the specifics of those, is that what an auditor needs to know? No, don't get too worried about that, because I'll get to this later, you audited teams, you've got a lot of time to audit, you'll be able to review systems, get advice from others, so you'll have quite a process to do it, so don't get freaked out about that. But the point being that this vehicle that's breached this barrier system is going to weigh far more than 10 tons, and especially, unloaded or loaded, it will weigh more than that. And it's breached this system and it's hit the gantry. And the gantry's had a fair move to it, hasn't it? And if this had come down across the carriageway, we would have seen even more of a catastrophic event and probably multiple fatalities and actually serious injuries. Okay, so the reason I put this one in is just one demonstration of highly experienced road designers, really, best you can get, who have designed something that absolutely meets standards, yet death has occurred. And potentially quite a catastrophic event. So standards were met, but it didn't guarantee safety. And so road safety auditors are there to try to critically look at the design and say, well, you've got a lot of heavy vehicles going to use this road when it opens. And there's potential that they will breach the barrier systems in some points. And are there critical points where we need to make even higher containment barrier systems or double up our system? Now, things like this flow on. So since this incident, there's been, changes to guidelines. That takes many years. And we do have now some upgraded standards and guidelines around this. So hopefully we won't see designers designing this, but you're going to be there as auditors to try and pick the next ones. So that's actually the test vehicle there. That's the large vehicle that crashes into the wire rope system. Let's have a look at another one here. And this is I should say, choosing the wrong containment level or inappropriate containment level for a barrier system is quite a big finding in a job with barrier systems. Often you'll really delve into that. This one's an intersection one, and it's a developer style one. It's got a bit of interaction between some big government investments and massive development. This is a huge development down here, okay? Massive development. It's got hundreds and hundreds of apartments. It's got shopping center complex. It's got other cafes and park thing, and it's big. And I'm going to zoom in a second. Here we've got an intersection up here, existing. We've got a bridge down there. There's a new duplication coming in as well. So let's zoom in. And this is a new intersection, new signalized intersection being created new signalized intersection being created into this development. And so this is how it's all being designed and set up. This is a car. So let's have a car driving along 60 km/h environment. Let's say it, maybe they're going a little bit faster than that, and they continue on straight because they want to go straight, and they're in a turn lane. Okay, so this is what we call a trap lane, and some of the naming of features, I think somebody deserves awards for these, because trap lane is the most perfect description of what that is. And you're driving along, and all of a sudden, the lane you're in, where you just want to keep going straight, it turns into a turn lane. We absolutely know that we're going to have rear end crashes and we're going to have side swipe crashes occurring along here, as people attempt to get out of their lane at the last minute, attempt and then can't, and then crash into the back of a vehicle. We know this. This is absolutely. The Austroads guidance and jurisdictional supplements do not quite go to the point of absolutely mandating you cannot have a trap lane on the network. Trap lanes, they're discouraged, but they are there. Very occasionally, a trap lane is intentional, that you want vehicles to make a turn, but that's almost never. So here's another example of where we as road safety auditors play a role at, one, identifying the issue, but I'll tell you now, the designer would have known that there was a trap lane. Okay, so it's not going to be a revelation to them that you've identified their trap lane. Okay, but what we have there is the ability to risk rate and to help with ways to potentially, hopefully, lessen this risk. Okay, and as a road safety auditor, I'm always, I suppose, understanding of all of the constraints and challenges that the designer has, that the project manager has, and it's a huge challenge. You're trying to build something like this, or design something like this, and you're going to have cost issues. You're going to have your traffic modeling challenges, which are requiring things. You're going to have land acquisition challenges, services to deal with. You might even have cultural heritage, native vegetation issues, and the list goes on, doesn't it? So what we're here to do is provide advice, identify issues, and try to help the designers and the project managers along their journey of identifying risk. So a point's come in there, and I think it's a really good one, and that must be Andy there, that in New South Wales, road safety auditors identify issues, risks, so they identify the issues and risk rate those, and are not providing controls. And so not providing the idea of how are we going to rectify this, because the theory is that that's the responsibility of the project manager and the designer, and that from a legal liability perspective, they do not want to be held to account if the auditor has suggested something else and they cannot do it. Every other jurisdiction, as far as I'm aware, in the world, but I guarantee every other jurisdiction in Australia, the auditors provide recommendations. Okay, and the reason for that is that the auditor is seen as somebody who may come up with good ideas to help reduce that risk. And that it's pretty clear in the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6 and any supplementary documents and common practice for road safety auditing that the receiver of the audit report is not required to do what the auditor says, but they take that as advice and consideration and come up with their ways to reduce risk. Personally, I think, well, the rumours going around in the industry is that New South Wales will change following this release of the 2022 part of the Guide to Road Design. But currently, as it stands, it is absolutely correct that auditors only identify risk, not controls, in New South Wales. So, Andy, you are on the list for a prize. A prize.
I've got socks and a drink bottle, Ken. What else you got?
There's always
and listen, just a question on this.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree with what in New South Wales. I always join the dots and provide answers and recommendations. Is it because there's the fear of being litigated in court that we might go to jail? And is that the fear? But how do the other countries around the world or the other states get around that? Yeah,
you're spot on there, and it's just I suppose that fear of the legislation around, the government being sued. It's not the auditors. It's who's receiving that report and maybe not acting on it. So it is that. Other jurisdictions around the world, I've done expert witnessing in both as a road authority representative and as independent expert in cases with road safety audits where things haven't been followed, and it's just a simple, clear reference to the Austroads Guide, and as long as the receiver of that audit report justifies not following that or doing something different, it's always been seen as fine. I'm not aware of any actual legal things that have played out against that, but it was a decision made at some level within New South Wales government, obviously, and we'll see if it changes. Okay, let's keep ticking on. But there's another example, isn't it, of where something conforms to the standards and guidelines. It's discouraged in there, but it still conforms as such. But it is something you'd bring up as a road safety auditor in the trap lane, and hopefully they would be able to either work out their controls and ways to lessen this risk, or if you're in other jurisdictions, that you might be able to provide them some advice, like channelizing the turn lanes, or potentially some advanced warning signs, some tweaking of the line marking far in approach to indicate the turn coming up. There's many ways that these could be, the risk could be lessened. Okay, I'm going to play a little video here, and actually this is probably not going to play on my computer, so I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to jump out to another screen to share. What I'm going to do is play a video. Oh, you're going to get it. That's not what we want. There it is. I'm going to play a video here, and it's of a crash that occurs. And what I'll be asking you to do is have a look at the road and roadside environment and tell me things that may have influenced the chance of this crash happening. So that's in the physical infrastructure around and the surrounding environment. What could be influencing this crash potentially occurring? Okay, I'll play it a few times. I just want you to have a look and start to think a little bit like an auditor. What do we got built out here that's causing some of these challenges? So hopefully that banner will drop away. Yeah. Okay, we'll look at the back of a dash cam. We'll go to the front in a second, and I'll play it a few times. I'm going to play it again, just so you're able to watch it a few times. Hopefully it's streamed through for you. Okay. So let me just share my other screen again here, and I'll jump forward. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Now, either in the chat or pop your hand up. I'm interested in your thoughts on, what is there in the surrounding road environment that may have influenced this crash occurring? Any ideas there? Okay,
I was going to say the give way sign is blocked by the shared path sign.
Okay. So there's a bit of good spotting there. So you're on the board, Blair. We'll talk about what level of risk that presents shortly. Okay, we've got the vegetation on the right. So Madeline's the first to put that in there. And what are we saying? Potentially blocking sight distance?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay. That's a good one. I'm popping that in there. Okay, lighting in the median. Okay, so the presence of that lighting was something to hit, wasn't it?
What's the color of it? It's dark.
Sorry, what was that?
It's black, isn't it? Color. It looks black in comparison. The one in the vegetation is black, but the others are silver.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's a different type of light lighting system, it looks like. So I think that, yeah, we'll have a chat about that one shortly. Something in the chat has sparked my interest from Dan. It says gives a perception that the road continues straight. Now that is, that's a really, I suppose, that is a road safety audit style thing. Everything that's been said so far is absolutely road safety auditors will pick up this. But the visual deceit of this intersection, and visual deceit is a term we use quite a bit as auditors, the road has the characteristics that looks like it continues on through. The presence of the lighting and the power poles in their sort of continued run down here, that is just accentuating the what a road user will never be able to articulate to you, but is in their subconscious that this road continues straight without control, like that they're going. And they may recognize that late. So I feel there is a chance that this white ute driver recognized too late that this intersection they actually had to give way at this point. Maybe they thought it was further on, or the configuration has made that, made that an overshoot issue. And we categorize intersection crashes into overshoot or restart. And this is an overshoot crash, okay? So they've recognized too late that they have to give way at this location. If they know and everything's clear that they have to give way and they're very clear of that, and they make a distinct choice that's poor for one reason or another, that's a restart crash. So the geometric alignment here is an influencing factor in people overshooting this. And not only, it could be 1 in one in 50,000, one in 500,000 that actually does this, but that can, if there's another vehicle coming, it results in a crash, which it has there. So we've got a couple of comments coming in here. I'll just have a quick read of these and see. So yes, there's absolutely some specifics around the definition of the and the hazard boards and the clearness of signage and lines. It's not clear sort of what they're entering. Was there enough advanced warning? Okay, is that the right control at this intersection? So I played this one a few times in different courses, and often some people are actually confused as to what the intersection control is. They think it's a roundabout for quite a while, and then they sort of go, oh, maybe it's not a roundabout. And that's another clue that it may not be a particularly obvious intersection control, because and we see that play out sometimes in designs of wide median treatments and the like, where we find road users confused by that intersection. And this is what we're trying to weed out before the intersection's built or before we have death and serious injury at a location. Now, Blair, you've got your hand up still. It might be a lagging hand up, but if you did want to say something, feel free to jump in.
No, that just left over. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I don't get that in the in-person training where people forget to put their hand down, but definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm using this as an example of us trying to put ourselves in the shoes of road users maybe who are not familiar with the area. So they may be deceived by stuff, they may be confused by stuff, they may be very tired, they may be intoxicated, and how are they perceiving this road environment? How is it influencing the chance of crash? Then we have the crash, right? And this is one that we are doing a lot more thinking around these days, is that the crash result in this instance has actually been quite good. Now, you might say it's not good, there's been a crash, but that light post has broken away on impact, and the driver of that black car, who gets out and walks around, by the way, so has survived. If that was to be a rigid pole, so they've sort of moved that distance in dissipation of energy. If that was to have been a rigid pole, I would say this would have been a fatality, or it would have been a high level serious injury. But the decision to use a slip-based pole in this situation has undoubtedly done a huge amount in terms of safety. So again, this is showing us that yes, we can and we will, and auditors play a great role in trying to reduce the chance crashes happen in the first place. But we're also in the game of trying to ensure that the severity of these crashes, that the severity is lower. And I think that that's a really good demonstration there. We could spend ages analysing that, but we won't. So we're looking to find these crashes and either prevent them from happening or lessen the severity. And there was a slip-based pole there, and I think most of you know a slip-based pole really well, but I'll just recap for you that slip-based poles shear off at the base. They shear off at the base when struck, but they've got the bolts that take the torque of the system and hold that. And they're a brilliant piece of road safety engineering. And as a road safety auditor, you may get plans and you may get designs that have lots and lots of technical detail, and you might get the lighting plan, and it might have a whole lot of new posts and poles, light posts and poles going in, and some of them may be slip-based, some may not. And you're sort of determining, is that appropriate or not? Now, hypothetically, if they were to put a slip-based pole here, you were looking at this as a design, not an existing road. What as a road safety auditor might you say there? I mean, they're obviously trying to lessen risk by making it a slip-based pole. So if a driver leaves the road and hits that, it breaks away and it doesn't send all the energy into the vehicle. But has anybody got any thoughts on, as an auditor, what you might say to that?
Well, the top broke off and that created another hazard in itself. So the structural assessment of that pole hasn't held together. So all good designing half of it down the bottom, but you look at the whole picture.
Yeah, that was an interesting one in that video, wasn't it? I've never seen a slip-based pole, lighting pole that has that configuration. So I don't know whether it was intentional or unintentional in the design, but it was very interesting. I'll agree with you there. Certainly in most slip-based poles, you wouldn't have the top do that. Okay, so Bridget is on the board there with a good one. You can have a prize for the idea of, what about if it falls onto power lines? Or what about if it falls into areas with high pedestrian activity and the like? And so I see a few people have sort of added to this. And there is another type of pole that we categorize within the suite of frangible poles. And it's a lighting pole. There it is. Actually, I'll give a prize if anybody can tell me what the name for this one is. So I talked about slip-based. And remember, these are both types of frangible poles, slip-based. And this one is... Yes, yeah, collapsible is a good guess. It's actually termed an impact absorbing pole. And they also are frangible, but they contain a vehicle with an envelope, and they don't quite operate the same way. And it's a bit more of a contained crash. And then you're sort of moving into rigid poles. So the rule of thumb is low speed environments, rigid poles, fine, and especially if there's pedestrians around or anything else. When you get into those medium speed environments, these are the better option just for that containment, and in high speed environments, slip-based poles. And as a road safety auditor, this is a common thing that sort of comes up. So thinking about where they will fall as slip-based ones. And then, as you can see, Max, one of our senior road safety auditors there, doing a post-opening road safety audit of a newly constructed roundabout. Checking the height is an important thing as well for existing ones, because if they're too high, vehicles will snag on them. They lose all of their benefit. It's not going to shear. If they're too low, it's not as bad, but it just doesn't get as much shearing as we would like. And so having a look at that specific height and checking it within the tolerances is an important thing. So you may see a few of these pop up in the slide notes. And in the learning management system, you have a PDF copy of these slides, and you could click on that and get a little bit more information, sometimes a video on this specific topic if you are interested. We'll go another 5 minutes or so, and then I'm going to take give everybody a short break. So another common misunderstanding around road safety auditing is, I'll just check the chat. I see a couple of things might have come in that I may have missed. Some good answers in there, thank you. Yeah, so wouldn't you add barrier curb? I think that's a decent comment that's come in there around added
Just
protection.
saying, Ken, where you got the the slip base in an urban environment. It looked like it was a mountable curb from what I could see, and maybe should have been a barrier curb, just that added protection.
Yep, that would certainly add a bit of protection and a bit of redirection as well. So I think those sort of things are good, and that's sort of the details of what auditors can be sort of injecting as ideas if you're in that space. So road safety audit's proactive, black spot investigation is reactive. If you are analysing crashes in detail and looking for crash trends and doing, crash matrices and crash diagrams and, all of that, you're doing a black spot investigation. And that is a good, process if you have an area with a significant crash history. If you have an area that it doesn't have an extensive crash history, or it's a brand new scheme, so the crash history is somewhat irrelevant. So it's currently a give-way controlled intersection and you're making it a roundabout. Question that comes up is, well, what relevance is the crash history then? Because we're trying to think about when it's a roundabout, what are the issues and what are the crashes? And the question often comes up, well, should you look at crash history as part of a road safety audit? And the answer to that is, it is up to you. And people often don't like that answer, but it is up to you. Because Austroads doesn't suggest one way or another, nor do any of the jurisdictions really. And it's just how you want to operate. But what it is, everybody is clear about, is that shouldn't be driving your identification of risk. Because if the crash history is driving your identification of risk, then you're doing a black spot investigation or a crash reduction study or the like. The way I do it is I'll look at a design with my audit team, or I'll look at an existing road. I will just simply look at it from what I think the risks will be based on what I can see. You can see in the design, any predicted volumes of different road users and how it all plays out. Then I might, near the end, have a look at the crash history and just to see if something pops out that, significantly alters the way I had been thinking about it. And that could be things like there's a really high percentage of motorcycle crashes in an area. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't actually, I didn't know this was, must be a very popular motorcycle route or something like that. Yeah, but like to look at an area and look at the crash history of an area and, maybe there's no pedestrian crashes, then I'm just going to mute somebody there. And then to say, well, there's no, very low pedestrian risk here. That's not really, that's not doing road safety auditing. That's not identifying risk based on these principles. Now, in terms of sort of benefit cost ratio of this, and is it a valuable thing to be doing auditing? There has been, because auditing's been around for about 30 years in Australia, there's been a number of different sort of studies to understand the effectiveness of it from traditional transport economic methodologies. And we see there, 36-1 for a design stage road safety audit in terms of the benefit you will get for undertaking the process of auditing and rectifying things at the design stage. You get a 6-1 for 6-1 benefit cost ratio when undertaking audits of existing roads and going through the process and suggesting changes and those changes being made. So while we take a 3-minute break, feel free to type into the chat why you think that we might get such mind you, a 6-1 benefit cost ratio of 6 is massive, but 36 is just huge. Pop into the chat, why you think we might get that extra benefit at the design stage of road safety auditing as opposed to the existing conditions. And we will take a 3-minute break and we'll get back into it after that. Okay, well, we'll get back into it. And thank you to all the people who put in their responses. I could give everybody a prize, I think, on that. I won't, but I will pick out one there that I had a smile at because I like the way it was phrased. Was Justin's there. It costs a lot more to rip out and replace an intersection than just build it safer in the first instance. So nicely, nicely phrased there. Yeah. There is a lot more money associated with that. There's also, general reluctance once something's built to do any fundamental changes, isn't there? It's you really end up in these existing conditions doing a lot of signs and line changes and and those sorts of things in the end. Okay. What is a road safety audit? I'm going to move through some of these slides a little bit quicker to get us to a point where I can give you a little assignment to do. Okay. The Australia's Guide to Road Safety Part 6 defines it with a whole page of text, which I'm not going to read to you because you can read it yourself if you want to get all the specifics of it. What I want to take out is this. A road safety audit is a formal examination of a future road or traffic project or an existing road or road-related area in which an independent qualified team reports on the project's crash potential and actual safety performance. Some pretty important words in there. Formal, okay? This is a formal process. You go through it and you follow the steps and you use establish, documentation protocol and the like. We can do it on future or existing roads, so designs or the like, or the existing road environment, or road-related areas. So it could be shared paths, it could be car parks, with these sorts of areas as well. You need to be independent. You need to be independent. So by independent, we mean you can't be the designer, you can't be the project manager. And you can't really be somebody who is overseeing, even at a higher level, these particular projects. But it doesn't mean that you can't undertake an audit of roads that undertake audits of roads that you are managing. So if you want to do a road safety audit of an existing bit of transport for New South Wales roads and gather a team together, you can do that and just follow the process. So those existing conditions ones are okay. Or you could do road safety audits of Transport for New South Wales projects as long as you weren't the designer or the project manager. Now, Blair's got a hand up on this one.
Oh, you just answered it.
Oh, okay, yeah, good.
Yeah, like doing, even if you're from the same organisation or company, can you do road safety audits on that company's projects or organisations? As in, we can do our own audits, but as long as we're independent to that project. Yes.
So this is one where Australians has always sort of delicately tried to say that the latest release of the guide has been a little bit stronger, but I'll just say it the blunt way that I think everybody wants to say it, they just don't do that, is that for government, local government, state governments and the like, everybody's happy for a Transport for New South Wales audit team to audit a Transport for New South Wales design job, as long as they're not the designer or the project manager, right? When they've got big ABC consultancy or even small ABC consultancy that did the design and are also doing the audit, everybody gets a little more nervous. Now, I generally hope that, and I think that most of these consultancies have the integrity and they're not being compromised in terms of, time frames or pressure from other areas and, those sorts of things. But that one's a little more discouraged. So, but it's generally seen as perfectly acceptable for the road controlling authority to have that internal processes and practices of road safety auditing. Okay. So the safe system, and beautifully here, I don't need to spend long on this because you're so aware of it, but we think of safe system principles when we audit as well. And a safe system assessment and a road safety audit are coming closer and closer together, because we are obviously thinking about people making mistakes. We're going to try and minimize those through identifying stuff in designs and in the existing road that cause those and eliminate them. But we are thinking about the severity of crashes. We're thinking about the human body and its vulnerability, and we're thinking about all of our shared responsibilities. So we have that aspiration of no death or serious injuries. We know people will make mistakes. We'll try and minimize those, but we need to manage them as well. We've got the shared responsibility, and people are vulnerable. Now, I want to see if I've got a quiz here, because it may or may not come up. Oh, gee, it does. Fantastic. Remember, you don't get marked on this, and hopefully that's going to come up on your screen. Tell me if it is not.
I've got it.
Okay, good. It's coming up. Now, you're not marked on it, but this is just a little pause for us to recap our thinking. And then the last question you got in the Safe System Assessment course, but I'm asking it again just to see if we are all on the same page still. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do it. I'll give it another 5 seconds. Pop your answers in, don't worry. You're not being marked on it. I can't even tell who votes for what. Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, vets and Paul. We almost got everybody, and that's fine. So let's have a look what people said here. True or false? A road safety audit is another name for a check against standards. Almost everybody on the page there. No, it's not another name for check against standards. It is far more than that. You can audit your own design. Again, almost everybody on the money there. You cannot audit your own design. You must be independent. Everybody onto this one. So, which is not a formal element of the safe system. A formal element is safe attitudes. We would love everybody to have safe attitudes. It's not a formal element. Which of these not common principle of the safe system? So yes, the idea that we would absolutely eliminate mistakes on the road. We acknowledge that while we're going to try our best to minimize them, we will still have mistakes. And people making mistakes is a key principle. And what was the speed? It was 44 kilometers per hour that Usain Bolt crossed the finish line. I asked that one in the Safe System Assessment course, and I ask it again here because I'm calibrating and getting everybody ready for that thinking of Usain Bolt running into that car at the end of his lane that we've parked there, and is he going to survive? He generally will survive because he's very strong and can handle a lot of force. But here's our graph of the entire community in terms of cars running into them at different speeds. And we see the collision speed, of course, down here, which you've seen many, many times now, some of you, and the fatality probability up here. And Usain Bolt, he's a bit higher and he comes in there. Lost my PowerPoint. Clicking along, and that's not going to work either. Sorry. I'm going to carry on here because I have taken most of you through this before, and others have as well. We have this information for side impact crashes: bullet vehicle speed, target vehicle, a bullet vehicle speed down here. We see somewhere in the order of 50 kilometers per hour. Things go really bad when that bullet vehicle is going faster than that, hits the target vehicle. We have dramatic increase in the deaths of occupants there. And for head-on crashes, we see that 70 kilometer per hour is a real kick-up point in terms of both vehicle speeds. Check out the safe system snippets on this if you want further info and you want to analyze it a bit more. There's some good stuff there. But in road safety auditing, where we really find ourselves less like a safe system assessment, where we're trying to attribute a scale of 0 to 4, or 0 to 4 on how severe incidents might be, we do a bit of that thinking, but we also sort of flag thinking these threshold speeds. And that's the 30 kilometers an hour pedestrians and cyclists are there, 50 kilometers per hour, where there's side impact possibility, 70 kilometers per hour, where there's head-on ability, and us looking to be below that. And there's a bit more here in terms of impact speeds and the crash types, which may assist you. And I'll give you a little bit of, I suppose, calibration on that. Just putting my little New South Wales disclaimer on that one. So the old model, which was essentially identify hazards and assess risks, and maybe draw a line there for New South Wales. The new model is identify risks, assess the risks, consider safe system tolerances that we just looked at. And then if you're in a jurisdiction that's making recommendations, you make your recommendations, but you give an indication of how well they will get us to our safe system aspirations and how effective that treatment is. So I want to show this example, and I want to use this to demonstrate identifying issues, and that's all fine, and we'll go through that, and I'm sure some of you will have a say on that. But my most important thing, remembering back to the purpose of this course, is about process and how you document things and the like. I'm going to take you through how to write up an audit finding in a way that we, as an industry, sort of generally have agreed, and it's now in the Australia's guidance, that is best practice in how to write an audit finding. So this is a design of a new intersection. No intersection currently exists here. This is a new intersection. There's an existing road, and they're creating this new intersection. It's a high-speed road, and you can see there's a left turn lane here, and we've got a right turn lane. And the issue that I want to talk about in this one, as a road safety auditor, is my concern that a vehicle propped here wanting to turn right, and there's a vehicle in here, and maybe it's a large vehicle turning left, will block sight lines to a vehicle coming through here. Okay, so let's just have a look here at a demonstration of that in a different site, where we see we've got a vehicle waiting to do a right turn. We've got a truck here. There's a white car sort of just behind it there, you can see. So we come up a bit further forward now, and you can see the white car's now clearly in view, and we've got the truck there doing its left turn. So the driver of this silver vehicle here may think to themselves, well, as soon as the white car has gone, I can take my right turn. And if we jump 1.5 seconds later, we see that the whole time that other silver vehicle there has been masked behind that, that truck. And we know that that then can, this situation arises, and we know that we have high speed side impact crashes as a result of this. So here is the write-up of that audit finding. It says, for the intersection, blah, 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 and blah, 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 vehicles using the left turn lanes may create dynamic visual obstruction for motorists at the hold line looking for through vehicles. This increases the likelihood of right-through side impact crashes involving vehicles turning out of the side road. The volume of vehicles on both roads is low, which reduces the likelihood of the crash. However, the proportion of large vehicles turning left into Epsom-Vanuatu Road is high, which increases the chance of dynamic visual obstruction occurring. The design is consistent with Austroads and VicRoads design guidance. The auditors believe it still presents a safety issue. And then there's a snip of the design and a couple of little annotations on it, or some little parts to show the issue. So here is the recipe for a good audit finding, okay? And I'm going to break it down for you. It's only taken me 15 years of teaching this course to actually make a formula or a recipe out of this, because I wanted it to be quite clear to people as to what makes up a good audit finding. Of course, experienced auditors will often deviate from the set formula, but most of the time it's a really good way to go. You explain your issue. Then you actually specify a crash that could happen. You might even want to use a RUM code in there to say, that's the RUM code I'm particularly worried about, but you spell out, you articulate the crash that you're worried about. You then talk about any particular factors that may increase or decrease the risk. And then if there are standards or guidelines that are applicable, you can put commentary around that in there. Either this doesn't meet standards or guidelines, or this does meet it, but we're still okay, or you may just not have anything there at all. And then also this, if you can put a picture or a snip of the design or something to make it very clear, that's a really, really beneficial thing to do in a road safety audit. That is just, for those who have received road safety audits in their time, having that little diagram there is just wonderful. You just go, oh yeah, I know exactly the spot they're talking about. I don't have to read 3 paragraphs and look at my plans and go, what chainage are they talking about? Which are they talking about, the south leg or the north leg? Oh, I forgot to, it's there, it's easy, you can see it, there's no confusion. And it's really helpful. So we've got all of that in there. And I want you to sort of come back to this when you're writing up audit findings during this course. Because I tell you now, markers of your audits will be marking using this as well. They'll say, have they clearly identified the issue? Have they specified a crash time? Have they added any risk factors? And then, is there any standards or guidelines they thought were applicable? Okay, that's nice to see. Is there a diagram or photo or something that's can, you know, articulate this a bit more? And then, you know, that's how they're looking through these. And it's just good practice. This is what we like to see. So then you've got your finding and you go, right, what's the risk of it? So the risk is the product of the likelihood of the crash happening and the severity of the crash. Now, in safe system assessments, we had this exposure, which you'll see in the risk diagram here, straight out of Ostrode's guide. Its likelihood includes exposure. So what's the chance of the crash and how bad is it going to be when it happens? And we use this to identify our risk. So we say, what is the chance that that vehicle will be doing the left turn, the large vehicle, that there'll be another vehicle masked, that there will be a vehicle trying to turn out at the same time, that that vehicle turning out won't wait because they can't quite see. And we sort of and ah about, is that all of that going to come together once every 10 years, or is it going to happen every few months? And then we ponder, okay, well, when that happens and they're struck, are we talking about it being property damage, or are we talking about it being fatal, or is it somewhere in between? So for this one, it's decided, it's seen of all of those things lining up and an actual crash happening out of this in all of those things is rare. The severity is serious. The resulting risk is medium. And as you would have noticed here, there's a line. Risks to this side of it come with a little FSI, fatal serious injury. Use FSI or KSI in New South Wales? You use FSI too, I think.
FSI.
Yeah. Some jurisdictions use KSI sometimes. But yes, FSI. You can see here on the left, we've got sometimes the same risks, but without that FSI label with it as well. Why do we sort of care about this? Well, the answer is that high risk here or high risk here, all things being equal, we care more about addressing this high risk. And that's what our safe system is sort of all about. It says, we want to prevent death and debilitating injury. We know people are going to make mistakes. And when those happen, we want them to be something they can recover from and lead a normal, healthy life. We want them to the left of the line if we have to have them at all. So ideally, we don't have them. And to a degree, this is an absolutely clear statement that this is not to be ignored. This is still a high risk, right? Something needs to be done about this because you can have a whole lot of these minor crashes. But just, thinking about it from that safe system perspective, we're more concerned down this end. I better make a little move on so we've got time for me to talk you through the assignment. So then we go into our recommendations, and this one I don't need to spend long on, as I said, because it's rightly pointed out that New South Wales is not a jurisdiction that makes recommendations. Other jurisdictions, I do want to quickly show you what is done, because technically you can get your certificate and go and do an audit in Queensland, and they will want recommendations. And we do our recommendations, but we also categorize those recommendations. We actually use the categorization out of the safe system assessment framework, just to be ultra confusing here. But it's that primary treatment, which virtually eliminates the crash potential, versus a supporting treatment, which is going to reduce the likelihood of crash or reduce the chance of this happening, but it's not going to virtually eliminate it. And in this document, 509-16, you'll find lists of treatments and where they fit into these categories. We will give you practice doing this. We have a quiz around it, and I am going to get you to go through it. It's a helpful thing to do because it starts to help us understand that some treatments that we do really aren't going to give us transformative change in terms of road safety outcomes, whereas others are. Signs and lines and lighting and things, they fit into our supporting treatments because we know that they help and they're a good thing to do, but they're not going to absolutely eliminate. We get all the signs and lines and everything and the lighting all right. We'll have less crashes, but the ones that occur, it's going to be based on the speeds, the angles, the vulnerability that dictate whether it's death or serious injury. So here we go. In a jurisdiction making recommendations, implement measures to reduce the speed and or angle of impact at this location. This could be achieved with a roundabout, primary. If this cannot be achieved, implement measures to improve sight lines at this location, such as increasing the offset of the left turn lane, supporting, relocating the hold line forward, provided that it can be done so safely. So I think if more people had been taught how to write up a recommendation in this way, I think New South Wales would still be doing recommendations, because you can see that this is not build a roundabout, because we know that the local council here, that the odds of them being able to afford a roundabout at this location very slim. Right? They've probably thought through that. They've come up with this because that's the funding they got or whatever it is. There is a chance, though, that maybe they're thinking at the point there's still a chance at a roundabout, and this helps them in that case. But we said here, but if you can't achieve that, here are some other ideas. So it can be very useful there to help get some ideas and some thinking. Another audit we were doing where we were having a similar issue came up, and this one we actually recommended including that offset, but actually creating a bike lane through there, because a few bikes were seen during the site inspection, and the area made as opposed to just chevroning it out, it actually sort of fit together quite nicely in open sight lines and provide a little bit more space there. So the cyclists would have probably used the chevron area anyway, so probably not that different, but it worked quite well. Really for a primary treatment, for things to be a primary treatment, you're going to have to address the severity of that crash, the consequence of the crash, because to virtually eliminate the possibility of it is highly challenging unless you're completely blocking off turns or closing intersections or doing grade separations and the like, because we need to account for human error. In a lot of jurisdictions, every other jurisdiction, you also, you'll have this table, you leave this bit blank, and then whoever receives the report writes, what they're going to do. I do know in New South Wales that it's often a practical tendency, and I've done this in the past as well for New South Wales audits that I've been involved in, is you do your audit, you identify your issues, you don't provide recommendations in the report, but they ask you to provide a separate memo with all your recommendations anyway. So you go, okay, that's okay, but it's just semantics really. Okay, so another example here. This is this is another one just showing again. The diagram's great, isn't it? Like immediately I'm going, okay, 2.9 meter wide right turn lane. Yeah, okay, I kind of know what the issues are already. I can see exactly where it is. So I don't need to read all of that, right? Don't need to read all of that. Sorry, I'm jumping through that. I better pause there because I'll show you it broken down into those elements in a second. But the issue we're sort of dealing with is, yep, they're obviously highly constrained in this area, and they've gone with a 3.5 meter left turn lane, 3 meter, 2.9. It's all squishy. So the wording of these findings is important. If you write this in your audit report, right turn bay is too narrow, yeah, you're probably going to have to resubmit your audit report to RSSs because you won't be getting your 80% requirement. You might just scrape through on something like this. The right turn bay from whatever the main road is to the side road is too narrow. Increases potential side swipe rear end crashes, and Austroads looks about a 3.3 meter wide. But this is going to get you your really, really high marks. And it's because it's got those things. It's got the issue well defined. It's got the crash specified. It's got risk factors, and it's got standards and guidelines if applicable, and it's got the diagram or the snip pointing us exactly where it is. We try and follow the formula of the recipe, and we do well. There are lots of things here that a road safety audit is not. Not a check against standards or guidelines. We've established that. We don't use road safety audits to assess the overall merits of projects. And we don't try and justify one project over another using audits. They're there to manage the risks within that project. Safe system assessments are better for that. Yeah, not replacing just general quality assurance that should happen, or it's not a crash investigation. It's not part of like a routine cyclic inspection, asset management inspections. And we really don't want to just apply it on the big high cost projects. It should be, in other projects as well. We don't want redesign of projects where we can't make that very clear safety link. And certainly you want to stick to only safety issues in your audits. It's not a workplace health and safety audit, as in if you're doing a traffic management scheme audit, you're thinking not just about safety of workers, but about safety of the traveling public. And in fact, if the workers are, digging in the wrong way or something like that, that you have a occupational health and safety concern about, absolutely raise that with the site supervisor or the like, as a moral obligation you have, but as a road safety auditor, that's not part of the audit. And the road safety audit of traffic management plans and traffic guidance schemes is probably the one where people most gravitate to just checking, is the taper length long enough? Is that the correct sign? Have they got the speed sign closest to the road in the multi-message sign? Tick, tick, tick. That can be part of it, but a road safety audit of that scheme is far bigger and wider than that. And New South Wales maybe has some justification for not having these controls or solutions as part of it, because the absolute primary purpose of the auditor is to find that problem. The solving it is that added benefit, but it's generally seen as helpful that somebody with the background knowledge is providing some ideas. But it's problem finder is what audits are. And yeah, we see a bit of overlap between techniques these days, between design reviews and audits, between safe system assessments and audits and design reviews, safety and design, and Disability Discrimination Act audits. So they're all starting to overlap, and hopefully we start to just combine these and in sometimes and get rid of a little bit of red tape on infrastructure projects. But they all at the moment serving slightly different purposes and giving slightly different ways that things are presented. So they sort of all remain as options. So what can be audited? Well, anything that interacts with the road environment or road-related area, big projects, small projects, work sites, innovative projects. It provides a pretty nice process to follow to reduce risk. I want to give this example before I probably jump you into a assignment eventually. This is a local government road and intersecting with a arterial road. High speed environment. The local council is sealing the road and, formalising the intersection, bit of curve and channel. And they made a determination that, they're doing upgrades here, and these are going to be, things are good. We're going to formalise improvements to the intersection, improvements to the signage on approaches, sealing this, nice, good bit of line marking. Everything's going to be better. No road safety audits required. So without knowing much about this and without getting to the site and in fact, not knowing too much at all, I'll give a prize to the person who can tell me what crashes significantly increased after the completion of this project in terms of deaths and serious injuries, and a bit about, so what were the characteristics that were a major contributing factor from the analysis as to why there was such an increase in death and serious injury at this location. So there were cross-traffic crashes. So Justin's correct there, but what as a result of that upgrade, what are the characteristics of that upgrade and the new road environment that have created this? Nicole's starting to think along the right line. And you're all sort of starting to piece something together here. But again, it comes back to a little bit of that thinking about what a driver approaching will be seeing. And a driver approaching, yep. So we're getting some good answers coming in. A driver approaching here, before it was built, was seeing a very changed road environment. In fact, it actually accentuated the intersection. It made it quite clear. Yes, so Nicole's now written it in. That's it. It kind of, without that, when it's sealed, it runs and looks very much like the road continues. You get a real visual to see. So this is the new side. Don't worry about the burnout marks. You can see their curb and channel and the like. But here's the old, on the old approach, and you can see it now continues straight. It's sealed. It's got the power lines. It's got the straight alignment through. Everything, is sort of working there for that see-through effect to be enhanced. And unfortunately, there was no audit done. There was no, and nobody there to point out this. And I suppose no recommendations to do all of the, or any of the things that could be done, or the designers and project managers aren't coming up with their own things, such as splitter islands or offset tees or advanced warning sign or rumble strips on the approach, or, you know, the raft of things we know, let alone going to some more primary treatments such as a roundabout or a, you know, yeah, roundabout's probably the one. And it is a roundabout now. 10 years, 12 years later, and lots of our community seriously injured and killed at this location. It is finally got to a roundabout. Yeah. Hand up there, Andy.
Oh, I'm just wondering, in Victoria, that single barrier line is acceptable where we normally put a double barrier line, Ken?
Yep.
Is
There's
that
a
the
few
case in
line
Victoria?
yeah, no, it's accepted. There's a few line marking issues here. It's still marked as a give way line, and it's got a stop sign, so that's an issue there if you eagle eye sort of look at it. The particulars of the line marking are important, but they sort of pale into the insignificance compared to the geometrics of this. And you know, we could do double barrier and we could get that line marking right. We'd bring a bit of the likelihood of crash down a little bit, but really it needs something far more substantial than that to lessen the risk here in a meaningful way. Okay, I'm going to actually pick this up next session, the types of road safety audit, because I need to give you an assignment. And I'll take any questions at the end just before we go. So, actually, no, sorry, I'm going to share my screen again because I can describe the assignment better using this, and I'll come back to that, don't worry. Okay. Your mission or your assignment is you are going to be given a random topic, a road safety related topic, road design topic. We want you to have a look into that, do some research. Now, we don't want extensive research. We don't want you spending hours and hours or days and days on this. We want you to just get a feel for the issue. And then we want you to create something. And it can be something fairly quick. It can be a quick fact sheet. It can be one PowerPoint slide where you've put in some information and some snips. It could be a cartoon. It could be a little video. It could be whatever you want. We want it related back to road safety and ideally road safety auditing as well. And we will give prizes to the most creative presenting of the information, as in, you know, the very creatively putting a cartoon together or something, most technically sound information, and most engaging. So 3 prizes will be given out. Really, this assignment can all be wrapped up and done in about 10 to 15 minutes if you wanted to. If you want to spend a bit longer on it, have a crack at one of the prizes, you might need to spend a little bit more time, but you can quickly search, find, grab information. We picked a series of topics, and part of the reason for this is just showing how many sort of topics there are out there that you could be, we want you to be aware of, and then we could, we could write lists all day of things to be looking at, but you can see lots of exciting topics there. And I'm going to put you give you one of those topics now. So I'm actually going to change my screen because I've got the super random generator of topics going here. Hopefully you can see that. But let's go. Now I'm going to generate some topics here because it randomly generates. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. So they're your topics, and I will email this to you, or I'll get somebody to email this to you in case you're not jotting it down right now. But you can see there We've got anti-gawk screens for you, Madeline, Justin, curbing near barriers. And we've got poles on school crossings, and the list goes on. If you're having any trouble with finding information about this, remember it's just a short, this is what it is, and this is how it can impact road safety. And maybe as a road safety auditor, you want to look at sight lines, past gawk screens, and how that works for entries and exits. There's a little clue for you from work sites. But if you're struggling to find information, get in contact. We can point you at some stuff. A bit of Googling on all of this will be fine. So let us know how you go. I've got to copy that so I don't lose it. And then, yep, if you're into the, oh gosh, where are we? Here we go. Learning management system, which I think a lot of you are aware of. You've logged in, you've found this. You can introduce yourself if you like. There's a bit of a safe system video, which I think a lot of you know anyway, some reference documents. This is module 1. This is where your quiz is. Okay, so you're going to click on the quiz and you're going to do that. And you also have this research doc. So the quiz will come up, multi-choice. You attempt the quiz. There you go. There's an administrative thing to cover off, but then multiple choice you go through, and it's about what we covered today. The research topic will be an upload. Sorry, I'm in grading view, but you will just have a button where you can upload something. I think it takes up to 100 megs. So if you're doing a video or something, try not to make it that. Don't spend ages on it, and really video, 1 minute style video, or TikTok. Yeah, that'd be interesting if somebody does that. Podcast, maybe 3 minutes or something, an A4 page. Don't spend a heap of time. Upload it. You got till Wednesday the 1st, looks like. So you've got a bit of time to do that. But I suggest you've got 5 days, 20 hours, and the clock is ticking. Suggest you just knock it off quickly. It's a fairly easy assignment, but get in contact if you do want to chat about it. Okay, so I think we've done pretty well there, and I may give you 5 minutes to knock off that quiz or to get a start on that assignment. So maybe I'll just, as I let you go, I'll just reshare that so you can have another look if you were trying to remember which your assignment was. But any final questions for me before I let you go? Okay, if you log in a little bit early for the next session, which is tomorrow, you're a chance to win a prize. I'll ask a little bit of trivia, just like we did with the people that arrived a little bit early for today's one. A chance to win a prize. I'm trying to incentivize you to log in a bit early. And next session, we'll pick up with those last few slides from module 1 and move us through module 2. But thank you. Thanks for all your interaction and answering questions. There's your assignment, do the quiz, and I shall see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Ken. See you tomorrow.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.